And today we're going to answer a very, very important question. How do you pronounce my country? Now, I've gone ahead and noticed that a lot of foreigners are teaching foreigners how to pronounce Qatar. Yes, a lot of people are saying Qatar.
Qatar.
Qatar. Qatar.
Qatar.
Qatar.
Qatar.
Qatar. Qatar.
Qatar. But is that really the true pronunciation?
Qatar or Qatar? You are right there. How do the locals pronounce it?
I've actually heard it 3 different ways, and that's Qatar, Qatar, and gutter.
No. Listen, I respect you. I want you to respect me. We're all respecting each other right now, but no. Bad. So, just to recap, the official pronunciation of my country is Qatar. 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 So go ahead and close your throat a little bit. Make sure you say ta instead of ta, and you get Qatar. And locally, we don't say Qatar. We actually replace the qaf with a G, so it becomes Qatar. So almost like guitar.
Excellent!
No, it's not a guitar. It's Qatar.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the Goway. Oh, actually, I've got to change that. We've just changed the name of this little series.
Is this part of the rebrand?
Yes, it is. And you know what? I've forgotten what we called it. Damn. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Goway Pro Travel Tales. Hear stories from industry experts, travelers, explorers, and globetrotters who will inspire you to dream bigger, explore further, and discover a new world. Today, I'd like to welcome Arron Kuehn from the Qatar Tourism Marketing and Promotion Sector, which is part of the Qatar Tourism Board. And before we get stuck into all the things about Qatar, Arron, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the relationship to Qatar Tourism?
Yep. So Arron Kuehn, one of 3 in the Tourism Board's representation offices, 2 of us here in Los Angeles, 1 in the DC and New York area, originally from the far northwest in Washington State in the San Juan Islands up on the Salish Sea,
Yes.
but living and working down here in LA area.
Okay. So what brought you to representing Qatar?
Oh, been working in various roles over the last 25 years, representing hotels and smaller tourism boards around the world. We were brought on as part of the ramp up for the FIFA World Cup 3 years ago, and working with the hoteliers and the tour operators to get them kind of ready for the North American standard
Right.
on what they expected. And I think it was was a wonderful success, a great event.
Right, because as you mentioned, well, you didn't mention, but Qatar dropped a lot of money into preparing for FIFA with building your stadiums, but also the infrastructure that goes along with hosting a huge event. Most people are probably aware of the Middle Eastern countries over the last, let's say, 10 or 15 years, if not 20, have been investing heavily in tourism infrastructure, everything from Dubai, Qatar, obviously Saudi Arabia is doing it now as well. So Qatar over the last, would it be 10 or 15 years? They've invested a lot of money in their tourism infrastructure prior to FIFA as well?
They were ramping up, but getting the award for FIFA was what kickstarted the big development. Right. 80 new luxury properties, which are all absolutely sparkling and really good value when you compare it to our neighbors, as well as the luxury product, really around the world. The tour product has come along with that. So it's, while Qatar is a small country, it's very biodiverse, a very diverse country. So there's a lot to do and see in a small area there, which I think resonated during the FIFA tournament and has continued to resonate with, the increased load factors the airline has had, as well as the, close to 200% year over year increases in stopovers in Qatar over the last 3 years.
Okay, so there's a handful of things which we'll expand on there.
Yeah,
so one of which is you mentioned the neighbours and you mentioned the size of the country being smaller. So let's start with an obvious one. Where is Qatar?
So Qatar is on a peninsula to the northeast of Saudi Arabia. It's about the size of Orange County, California, where I live. So about 90 minutes end to end in the country, 2 hours if there's a traffic jam. There's no traffic jams in Qatar. It's really well planned out.
Okay. So actually, I'm going to ask you about how to get around Qatar as we move down the list there. You also mentioned the airlines. There's the national airline, Qatar Airways. So I'm going to ask the question, but I know you're going to answer it this way. What's the best way to get to Qatar?
Airline's going to be the first. You know,
Yep.
it's 7 out of 10 years. The last 10 years, Skytrack's number one airline in the long haul market. It is considered the number one business class in the world by a long stretch in the Q suites, and they've recently announced they'll be putting on a first class product sometime in the next calendar year, which is big news. That just came across the wires about a week ago. I will put in a small other plug though. They have the newest cruise terminal in the Middle East. So the cruise market is expanding. So we are seeing significant numbers coming in on regional as well as around the world sailings.
Okay. So on that note, Goway doesn't really specialize in the traditional cruises, but we do have a lot of agents who work with cruises and use Goway for their pre or post or shore excursions. So I'd never thought of the Gulf in that area as a cruise region at that level. So which of the cruise lines are going into that area?
So it started out with more of the European lines like your TUIs and your MSCs and the like. Okay. But now we've moved into like your Pagnons, your Windstars will be coming in. Celestial is also going to be working in their off season out of the Gulf as well.
Okay, so we're going to go off subject here. I hope you don't mind a bit. So obviously Qatar is a port of call. What are some of the other big ports of call within that area? Because this is going to be new.
So it would be, well, it changes. Obviously the current political situation,
of course,
in various countries can change the itineraries, but it's going to be like your Dubais and your Abu Dhabis in that region. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's something, like you learn something new every day. That's something I didn't realize that cruises were an option in there. So to our agents listening, obviously we can assist with the cruises, but our cruise agent specialists out there, we leave that to you, but we can definitely assist with getting you there, your clients that is, and or pre and post and shore excursions. You mentioned the political climate. So currently Qatar is clear of any political issues, but well, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the case. And as a follow-up to that, it is a Middle Eastern country. So are there any cultural considerations for a traveler visiting Qatar?
Sure. It's a great question. And thanks for asking. So Qatar is year in and year out safest country in the world. Doha, safest city in the world by ratings. And that's not because this is a scary Middle East. It's a progressive country. It's a point of personal and cultural pride for the locals as well as the expats that are living and working in Qatar. Absolutely welcoming to everybody. Single travelers coming through, ladies coming through, really anybody coming through is going to feel welcome and absolutely safe. You just don't hear about incidences in Qatar. And that's continued in the current environment. Qatar has positioned themselves as a mediator and moderator in the current climate.
Yes.
And we've seen business continue to pick up coming into the country. And I suspect that's possibly because some are shifting through other regions. But the word is out that it's calm, it's collected, and it's safe.
Okay. So more so for the female travelers out there, is there anything that they need to be aware of in regards to dress or behavior?
I forgot the second part of your question. So no, listen, there's 3 million people in Qatar, but there's only 300,000 Qataris. So it's a real melting pot. And there's a lot of regional, so it still feels authentically Arabian, which is the way I like to describe it, but it's modern. So as far as attire, there's no issues. There's beach clubs where people are in swimsuits and the like. You'll see jeans, you'll see shorts. The only caveat that I'll add to that is going into a mosque or going into perhaps a traditional marketplace. You'd want to cover, similar to going to the Vatican, cover the shoulders, cover the knees, and you would never be hassled. But it's just like just be respectful of your surroundings. Yes. Otherwise, if it feels like a real nice blend of Western and Arabian.
Nice, yeah, and that's pretty much standard advice for anyway. I was just in Thailand and we had the same request in visiting temples: shoes off, long pants, etc. So again, it's nothing more dramatic.
And if I could just add one other thing, if you find yourself in a situation like you're being welcomed into a mosque and you weren't expecting it, they'll have the garments for you that you can borrow it or you can buy it at one of the souks. It's easy to manage for any of your clients coming through.
Okay. So again, I did mention that I'll ask this question, so we're going to get to it now. So you mentioned Qatar is 90 minutes end to end.
2 hours. Let's cover it with 2 hours.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
in about 350 miles of coastline, um, and Doha is going to be your main city. There are other cities, but it's all part of the megalopolis generally. Well, there's going to be towns north, south, east, west, but 90% of your population is going to be right there in Doha, which is neat because everything's within 15 or 20 minutes of each other. It's a master planned city that's come out of this authentic small Arabian series of villages. Um, but it's a great metro, easy to get around, basically free. and so you can check off, the point being, you can check off 4, 5, 6 things just in the city, and have the clients tuck back in for a nice dinner at the souk or at their hotel.
Okay, so if someone wanted to explore beyond Doha and the coastline, so is there? We will touch on what is there, but is there a rail line? Is there self drives? Is it safe, okay to self drive off road within Qatar if you want to go off, away from the main attractions and maybe into the desert, which is one of the follow-up questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So to the south is the inland sea with the dune bashing and the Gulf going in amongst the sand dunes. You can self-drive for that. You can rent cars. You can rent four-wheel drives. You can rent motorcycles. I like the driver portion, especially for a first-time visitor. You're driving on the right side of the road. It's all automatic. So the standard confusion for the North American client isn't there. It's a safe country. They mind their speed limits probably better than we do here. And to the north, tours and transfers are easy. You can do the car rental. Uber is going to be your Lyft app there. There's no Lyft. There is Uber. It's very inexpensive being a Middle Eastern country and a petrol state. The metro, which I touched on, was built for the FIFA World Cup. It touches 7 out of the 8 stadiums and about a 30-mile range north to south there. So you can generally get everywhere on the metro, and they're continuing to expand that.
Okay. So just jumping back, you've mentioned a few times, the rapid growth, the build for FIFA. Again, it's an obvious question, but I'll ask it. Qatar's wealth comes from?
Oh, so
oil?
It's oil, but it's more natural gas. I think Qatar has a third largest proven natural gas reserves. So you don't see a lot of it, barring one area to the south on the way to the dunes. Otherwise, it's offshore. So it's liquid natural gas.
Oh, okay, cool. So when's the best time to go? It's a Middle Eastern country. It's going to be hot year round, I know.
So
warmer and colder.
It's funny you mention it because I was there in February and it was colder there than it was in Southern California. So it's going to be temperate into the high 70s this time of year. Okay. By the way, we're filming this in April right now. The heat cranks up late May and gets really hot probably mid-June. So mid-June to mid-September. Think Tucson, Arizona, plus about 10 degrees.
Okay. So again, so it's an equivalent seasonality to North America, winter, summertime.
Sure.
So I know for summer, like Saudi, it's not don't come in summer, but it's sort of highly recommend you don't because it's so hot. Is that something you would advise when you visit Qatar, that the heat becomes too extreme to visit in summer?
I would for some of the outdoor stuff. Now we do have some of the largest groupings of whale sharks in the world, and they're there in the summer. But these are luxury air-conditioned boats. We're taking them from the air-conditioned bus. So that is something that you can do in Qatar in the summer. As far as length of stay, from the client perspective, coming through for, I like a 3-night stopover there to beat the jet lag, give them 2 vacations in one, right? Perhaps in the summer, I might tighten that up to a 1 or 2 night stay, and then we just focus the itinerary a little bit more on the indoor stuff. 100 museums and art galleries in Doha proper, 2 of the most famous museums in the world. There, just keep the clients indoors, so it's doable. Okay. We just change the activities that we're recommending.
Okay, so basically you can travel any time of the year, but again, summertime, which is our summertime, it's more of an indoors focus. Outside of that, that's when you get into the desert and that type of thing. You jumped ahead to one of my questions of how long, and you mentioned stopover. So Goway has a lot of success with using Qatar as a stopover to somewhere else, but like I think it can be a standalone destination. Would you agree with that? Like, can you spend a week there and have enough to do in a week in such a small country?
Oh, sure. I'm a huge fan. I proselytize all the time for them. They're great. When I go, I spend a week when I go on my own. So yes,
Right.
a 5, 6, 7 day itinerary is possible. And usually I recommend mix that between, set tours, arranged through Goway and a little bit on your own, to give you some flexible time. Plus, the spa services there are
Oh, okay.
spectacular in Qatar. The shopping, there's about 30 luxury malls plus the original two souks that you can visit there. The souks are open till midnight, which is great for those late arriving North American guests coming off those flights. But the shopping malls, duty free and tax free, and a lot of them are open till 1 or 2 in the morning. Now I know they're open till 1 or 2 in the morning because my wife likes to give me shopping lists
Right.
right before I do my 5 a.m. pickup, coming back to Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. So on that note, how expensive is Qatar either compared to the other Gulf states and or to travelers in general? Is it an expensive
Yeah,
destination?
so I'm operating more in the 4 and 5 star market. So I'd say for the upmarket hotels, about 30% off the neighboring countries.
Okay.
And then, geez, it'd be half or a third the price. I'll take Fairmont as an example. Brand new Fairmont has gone up there. It's a combination of Fairmont and Raffles. It'd be a third the price that you would pay for one in the States. So it's
Okay.
really good value. And can I'll plug the culinary scene as well. It's less expensive food wise. Qatar is close to self-sufficient on their food production. So it's farm to table fresh and less expensive than you would have in the night out, typically here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
With the exception of alcohol. It's gonna be Los Angeles prices on your drinks in Qatar. And those are going to be at Western hotels, nightclubs, and beach clubs. So yes, you can have a cocktail.
Okay, so that answers another question. Yes, you can consume alcohol in Qatar. So in summary, you'd say Qatar is one of the cheaper options within the Gulf states and very affordable in general.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so again, Arron's mentioning the 4 and 5 star market, which is primarily what Goway focus on, though we can do budget if people are looking for that. Back to the sort of getting around, we highly recommend here at Goway doing the private guided, which is I think what Arron mentioned, having a driver and getting around. I just come back from Thailand and we did a group tour. It was okay, but the private touring we did, it's so much better for the experience in any country, let alone something probably as culturally different, though with the modernisation that Arron's alluded to in Qatar. So we talked about, can you make it a standalone destination, which we both agree you can. So what are the big attractions? Now, you mentioned whale sharks. So my first thought was, is there diving in Qatar?
No, so it's UNESCO protected up there. It's during the breeding season. So they don't want to disturb them. So there's divers doing the photographs for them. And there's, panels on the boat, glass panels you can see into the water, and all that. But you are just right up amongst them. There's hundreds of them.
Is there diving opportunities in general, though, in Qatar?
Oh, yeah. Great. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They're just trying not to bother the sharks.
The wild sharks,
yeah. So there's famous wrecks in Qatar. Diving is a huge stop for diving. So there's famous wrecks. A dozen great operators there. So it can absolutely be done.
Okay. And off the back of that, what are some of the other big sites that someone should see, be it on a stopover or a longer stay when they're
so I mean, take it even for a 5-hour stay. The coming in on a 6 o'clock flight from be it Montreal or New York or something like that. The Souk Waqif is our famous spot. This is the real Qatar. It's where all the locals come, the regional workers, as well as the huge U.S. military base there and all the tourists.
Oh, is it?
So this is the melting pot of everything. It looks like a scene out of an Aladdin's tale. They've got the lanterns going. It's
Nice.
either all original or built as they've expanded in the original style. So it feels absolutely authentic. Yes, you can bargain, but it's not hard bargaining, which tends to stress me out and a lot of our clients, right? So that's number one, just for the short. And then I build it out from there. If they're staying for a full day afterwards, I like to keep the clients busy because you're trying to beat their jet lag, right?
Yeah.
Before they head on to, whatever the end destination is. I like the museums. National Museum of Qatar can be done in an hour and a half. It's a stunning. It's modeled on a desert rose. Kind of looks a little bit like the Sydney Opera House. Parts of it. That's a good one in the morning. I like the Museum of Islamic Art, MIA, and that is right along our Corniche, and that is where all the traditional dhow boats are, which are before we struck gas and oil in Qatar. They were pearl divers. The Qatari pearl was the most famous pearl in the world 100 years ago. The local families have kept up those boats. After the Museum of Islamic Art, you can go for a dhow cruise, easily arranged. Or if you want a more modern ship, harbor cruises are a great one as well.
Okay.
What else is there to the north? You wouldn't expect it in a Gulf state, but it's incredibly green and lush. Okay, it's incredibly green and lush. Mangroves cover the northeast coast of Qatar, and we can arrange guided kayaking, stand-up paddle boards, or boat trips up there. Sunset, they call it Purple Island to the north of the mangroves, and it is an absolute stunner. About 45 minutes north of the city, so it's not super out of range there.
Okay.
So that there's lots to do. That'd be about a 3 or 4 day trip there.
Okay, so from the cultural experience type of things, are there opportunities to sleep in the desert, visit other Bedouin tribes within the Qatar region?
The Bedouins have been brought in, and they've all
Imported.
The locals have retired from it, but yeah, so they've got Bedouin style camps there. Everything from the traditional to the ultra luxe there. You can stop in for a meal, have the Arabian coffee, see a bit of the falconry, which is the national sports there in the Middle East. And yes, you can overnight. It's glamping though.
Yeah. Okay.
There. Yeah.
Do they have camel racing in Qatar?
They do. So and then I think it's happening this time of year. But nuance in Qatar is they don't have live riders.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah,
they've got the robots.
Yeah,
they got the robots on the back of the camel. And I think they were having the Qatari youngsters doing it, and it's just trying to get them a little bit more safe.
Right. Yeah. I think it's also better for the camels as well.
Yeah. Right.
Oh yeah. So you've mentioned accommodation, which is 4 to 5 star is abundant. There are budget options as well. You also mentioned culinary offerings. So is the culinary like solely middle? I think I know the answer. It's not solely Middle Eastern. It'll be Middle Eastern. It'll be Western. It'll be a mix of that. Asian, I believe, because of all the workforce that came in and remained.
Yeah, so you're going to get a little bit of everything there. There's 30 Michelin-starred chefs that'll have restaurants there, so it's culinary at a very high level. World's largest Nobu. There's a Miramoto there, and the list goes on and on. I like a $5 curry and kebab in the souk, and have the local stuff. There's a good 6 to 8 Qatari restaurants, and I want to put a plug for a smaller local inbounder that Goway works with, which is called Embrace Doha. Oftentimes it's hard to find a local in the Middle East. There's so many expats running around in these places, right? But Qataris are front and center in the business world, in the travel world. And Embrace Doha is a local operator where you can go to their cultural house. You can try on the local outfits. You can speak. It's local owned and it's woman owned. Nice. So I think that's a nice touch for the Goway client, to be able to ask any of the questions that you might have, and try on the traditional garb. I always go and do the spice making activities that they offer. Then they can come to you. They can do a culinary tour in the souk, take you to the real Qatari restaurants and the hyper local shops to get the local handicraft. So I like to add that touch when you're doing the private events.
Perfect. And that's exactly what Goway likes to offer, apart from the stock standard sights and sounds you would expect in any city. Just what Arron mentioned is what I was fishing for, and he beautifully explained it all. And that's what Goway really likes to work into an itinerary, the real local cultural experiences. And as you mentioned, from shopping locally, cooking locally. Can you stay with a local family? Is that a possibility? Like an overnight thing?
Not that I've heard of yet.
Okay, fair. Okay, cool. Being such a big developed Gulf state, Goway has a very large groups department, so we deal with conferences, events, and weddings. Is Qatar a good location for conference events and or weddings?
Absolutely, it's the fastest growing segment for us, and it's the fastest growing in the Middle East. If I could just diverge for a second, post FIFA World Cup, the government, airline, and tourism board are offering super discounted rates on the hotels. So about 50 properties you can get for about 70 or 80% off. So basically, effectively, that ends up being $14 to $81 per person on a 4-star or 5-star property per night. And then we just build out the itineraries for there. And Goway has full access to all that. You touched on groups. These hotels are ready for it. They've got the facilities. There's a dozen convention centers. All the hotel properties will have space to host even small and mid-sized groups and really personalize it. Bring in some of these local operators and give them the authentic Middle Eastern experience. And yes, we can get not quite those deep discounts on those compared to the FIT rooms, but we can give very competitive group rates as well.
Okay, so anyone out there who's working with our groups department and looking for maybe a different destination, and again, it's easy to get to, and as Aaron alluded to, we have a lot of people stopping over as well as longer stays. But for that sort of short, sharp conference event, it's very, very affordable, both on airlines and space here as well. So we mentioned the location of Qatar in the Gulf area. So what would be a good combination of countries, with Qatar being like the focal point? What can you add on? Should you add on?
So is this for the long haul, or talking about a regional tour?
Well, if you were going to the Middle East and you wanted to combine countries, or you're in Qatar and you want to, can you just duck across the border and visit another country, or is it something you need to structure in we'll do Qatar, we'll do Dubai?
Okay, yeah. So probably the most common, like Saudi Arabia is our closest, right? They just opened up flights to Ayula, and they're going to be going to all the major points. So that'll be a big part of our business. Another partner has been Jordan. Has been a good fit. Not as modernized as Qatar, so Qatar's a good jumping off place or just finishing up place. So Jordan pairs well. Historically, Egypt has been a big partner as well. Obviously, that's slowed down in the current climate. And then for the long haul market, this is going to be for your African safaris.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be for going into Asia, just because Qatar is going to be so visually different and so culturally different. It's effectively giving the clients 2 vacations in one, and then really beating the jet lag so they can hit the ground running. And then I like to finish up, if you're looking to do shopping, because it's tax-free, duty-free, don't do your shoppking at the beginning. Stop through Qatar on the way back.
Now, I must admit, as I said, I've mentioned a few times, I just came back from Thailand. We flew directly into India, and in hindsight, I would have much rather done something you just mentioned, like hit a Middle Eastern country, obviously in this instance, Qatar, for that day or day and a half, 2-day break to break up the journey. Because when you're hitting Africa or Asia, it's such a long way, and Qatar Airlines is such a beautiful airline, whether you're at the back of the bus or the front of the bus. It's that concept of breaking up those long journeys in such a cool little cool little country, where you can do so much in a short period of time, adds to it not just being a quick stopover. It's a really in-depth type of stopover. And as you mentioned, culturally different to probably where you're going or coming from.
Sure.
So what is new for Qatar? What is upcoming for Qatar that our travel partners need to be aware of?
Oh, gosh, you threw me a curveball there. So we're expanding. We touched on it earlier. They're expanding into the MICE space.
Mm-hmm.
Meeting and incentives, large group travel. You're going to see a lot of events coming through, and I think some that'll fit with the Goway client. We're the MotoGP is now a regular spot. The F1, we're a permanent spot on the F1
When
circuit.
is the
So you're
F1? That's normally near the end of the season. Like,
geez, yeah. So I think they did it in October, but I think it was still a bit hot. So I think that I had heard that they were pushing it a little bit further back in the season.
yeah,
You're gonna see one big events like one championship, which is the more international MMA fights. There's a big stop there's a European golf tour stop. There's
so
tennis stops.
Just on that note, a golf
Yeah.
tour. Liv is probably going through there the new golfing structure. But if clients want to golf in Qatar, are there golf courses for the public?
Yeah, so there's two tour capable courses there. No issues getting your clients in there. They don't need to lug their clubs around. We're ready for them.
Okay.
Or if you just want to pitch and putt, they've got a couple of 9 holes
Okay, cool.
there.
And you mentioned earlier on when we were talking airlines that Qatar Airlines are introducing a first class option this year. I think you mentioned.
That's right.
Okay.
We're supposed to be. Hey, we're allegedly seeing prototypes soon.
Ooh.
But I'm going to have to just insist that I see it firsthand, though, right?
Yeah. Again, until it's there, it's not there. Yeah. Okay. So, Arron, is there anything else you would like to entice our listening and viewing public with, travel partners out there, about Qatar?
Yeah, so I think the discounted rates that I talked about are up to 4 nights stays, and those can be booked coming and going. So you can bunch it up to 1 and 2 or 1 and 3, that sort of thing. Those will be good through 2025. For your advisor and agent clients that are out there, if you're passing through, don't spend a bit of time. Reach out to me and my team. We're happy to host you or help host you in the country, because I really believe that seeing is believing.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on that note, Arron, I'd like to thank you for your time today. It was very informative. As I said, you learn something new every day, no matter how often you may deal with the country. So everyone out there, everything that Arron's mentioned today, Goway can assist you with, anything from the cruise itself, pre-post, shore excursions, flights to and from, with Qatar Airways, of course, private guided group travel, all your accommodation, all your touring, multi-country combinations. We can assist particularly on the complex air to get you around those regions. All our destination specialists in our Africa and Middle East department are here to help you with any inquiries you have. So again, on that note, Arron, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Everyone out there, please reach out to Goway with any inquiries or questions you have about Qatar, and check out Goway.com. We have lots of sample itineraries and ideas there. And again, if it's not there, let us know. We can make it happen for you in partnership with Qatar Airlines and Qatar Tourism Board. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And again, thank you very much, Arron.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Don. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Okay, that's it.
How'd I do?
Perfect.